Okay, welcome back. We've discussed a little bit about calving season and discussed a lot, and I think most people understand what we're talking about now and how we can identify the most fertile cattle. It takes a bit of thinking to get through that, but once you understand it, you see how simple it is. What I'd like to talk about now is the influence of hormones on the size and the shape, appearance of cattle. Basically, there are two groups of hormones in any organism, cattle: your growth hormones and your sex hormones. So sex hormones, when an animal reaches sexual maturity, when there's a decrease in growth hormone and an increase in sex hormones. And sex hormones being testosterone for the bull and estrogen for the cow. So what it means is that the earlier an animal reaches sexual maturity, the lower the hip height is going to be, as opposed to here. Here are two different animals that were selected on frame score. This animal matured sexually much earlier than that one, and that's why he's got a lower hip height. So all the long bones in the body slow down in growth and stop growing once an animal reaches sexual maturity. When you have a decrease in growth hormone and an increase in sex hormones. So it's very important to understand that. And that's what went wrong with frame scoring when they selected this bull here. In terms of high frame score, they selected for later sexual maturity indirectly. And that's a result. We see a photograph of this bull now. I think the next one, there you can see the two bulls. The one that was on the left-hand side and the one on the right-hand side. The photograph doesn't show the difference in hip height here, which you saw in the earlier photograph. So this animal was selected for high hip height, later sexual maturity indirectly, and that's what happened. Look at the two bulls here. Look at these testes and look at this one's testes. Look at the secondary sexual characteristics, like beard in a man, coarse hair over the neck, a very deep chest, wide shoulders, a masculine trait. Whereas this animal is very tall here. Look at how small his testes are. Let's go back to the other one photograph, please.
From behind it does. Yeah.
There's a difference here. It's two different photographs. Yeah, it's because it's two different photographs. Okay, carry on. Next one. Yeah, stop there.
Recognize that picture?
Sorry? You recognize that. Here it shows again what sex hormones. There's obviously this is a very fertile bull, and that's a fertile ox. And what you find here is that the masculine traits are exaggerated in the bull, and you don't get you have feminine traits in the fertile ox or effeminate bull. A cow is wide by the hips, a bull is wider through the thighs. You see this bull is much wider through the thighs than the hips. That fertile ox here is much wider through the hips than through the thighs. Masculine traits, so he has a lacking testosterone, and he has very high levels of testosterone. Next one. Testosterone, a very deep forequarter is an indication of testosterone. As you can see this bull here. Very deep forequarter, masculine, heavy shoulders. And that doesn't always indicate calving problems, because that's hormonal balance. Hormones do that. So hormones modify the shape and size and weight of an animal, or the fullness of the body is determined by hormones. Next one. And the opposite in the cow. So what you have, the extreme masculinity in the bull will give you extreme femininity in the cow. So a very extremely masculine bull will give you a cow that looks like that. That's one of my cows that was sired by a very masculine bull, very well-muscled bull. But this cow doesn't show muscling. She might show fleshing, his body condition and flesh, but not muscling and muscle definition. So what you see in a cow here, a good beef cow should have the outline of a good dairy cow. Exactly the same. If you look at that outline, a dairy cow would have that wedge shape, deeper through the hindquarter and shallower through the forequarter. Subsequent photographs will show that more clearly. And what you also see is that the vertebrae here on the shoulder, transverse vertebrae, are also long bones. So if an animal reaches sexual maturity later or calves later, you'll find those bones are higher than the shoulder blade. In a very fertile animal that's calved at an early age, the shoulder blade is normally as high or higher than the vertebrae. And what you'll see with the shoulder blade as well If an animal walks, it's very prominent. It looks as though it's loose.
Is this bulls and cows?
No, cows. This is cows. Yes. It's the opposite in bulls and the opposite in cows. So the extreme testosterone levels in the bull will give you extremely high estrogen levels in the cow. And that's what we're talking about, sexual dimorphism, which you see in a lot of unimproved breeds that have been selected by nature, like the African breeds. There's a very big difference between the shape and size and weight of bulls and cows.
What did you say about the shoulders?
I'll show you later. I'll show you in the subsequent photographs. The shoulder looks as though it's loose, the shoulder blade when they walk. It's good. It's an indication of early sexual maturity and high fertility. In other words, the animal has calved at an early age and has calved subsequently after. No. The muscling goes to the masculine. So she carries the genes for muscling, but she doesn't show it in herself or in a female progeny, only the male progeny. Again, you see in the bull indications of testosterone. You can see in this bull a very thick neck, very masculine crest. He doesn't have a hump like a zebu, a more European type breed, and the defined muscling, which you'll see in other bulls as well. And what you also see is the hair on the tail brush will be very coarse in a bull, and the cow will be different. And the hair on the sheath, we saw those bulls yesterday, they've got very coarse hair on the sheath. That's also indications of higher levels of testosterone. Next, and again here, another bull with very high testosterone levels. You can see the defined muscling. You can see each individual muscle, and you see that thick neck with that defined muscling. And what you'll also see is here, because these animals at early sexual maturing, they stop growing at an early age, but their bodies don't stop growing in terms of length. So what you'll see is in these animals that they have a sausage type appearance. So your hip height is restricted by the hormones, but the length of the body is not restricted by hormones. So you have longer looking bulls with longer bodies, generally speaking. There are breed differences as well, but generally speaking, that's what you will find. And here, this is a 2-year-old bull that I bred. 2-year-old.
Wow.
First bull I used, his mother calved at 2 years and again at 3 years of age. He'd just be over 2 years, maybe 2.25 years.
What breed is he?
Beef master.
Straight female.
Yeah. But remember, I upgraded with the indigenous cattle. So they're all a little bit different. So they're all a smaller frame. But that is one of my first beef master bulls that I used very extensively, and I sell a lot of semen from that bull as well. Okay, so these 2 years old, or just over 2 years old. And look at the defined muscle. You can see it's like a bodybuilder showing off his muscles, but that's natural steroids, not artificial steroids. So he comes from an extremely fertile cow, calved at 2 years of age and again at 3 years of age. So she was basically had a very good hormonal balance, and she was had a smaller frame. That's why she could have put good on body condition. So he also passed on good body condition to his female progeny. The only problem there, or challenge, is that in South Africa they discriminate against the twisted scrotum.
What?
A twisted scrotum. If you don't know about it, don't worry about it. Don't think about it.
It's not important.
It's not important at all. But in South Africa, they make a big thing about it. It's totally unimportant. It's just the way the test is attached to the ligaments. Sometimes they're twisted a little bit. Next one, please. Okay, testosterone and muscling, very extremely well-muscled bull here. And look at this effeminate, fertile ox. I can't be very complimentary about cattle like that. But these are cattle that won show prizes. Can you believe how we've messed up the cattle breeding industry by measuring hip height and using frame score? We're using hip heights now, but in the opposite direction, opposite way. So thankfully, we do have those figures. But look what they've done to the cattle industry by selecting for size. So you have a total hormonal imbalance here. I mean, look, you can hardly see the testes on that animal.
Oh, that's a bull?
That's a bull, yes. Well, you can see there's no indication of defined muscling. There's no muscle mass. There's no differentiation in color, which you do get in some bulls. This bull doesn't have it, but in some bulls you get differentiation in color, darker color here and here. But he should have a much larger hump as well, which is a masculine trait. The females will have smaller humps, but bulls should have very big masculine humps, as you see there. So what you have here, because they're selected for hip height, indirectly you're selecting for later sexual maturity. Now they're trying to counteract that by selecting for scrotal circumference. It's the same as willingly taking in poison and then taking an antidote to counter the poison. That's what's happening there. Now, if you think of the female progeny that unfortunately that bull might produce, they will be hormonally imbalanced and they will have very poor inherent body condition. Next, please. These are American bulls, by the way, not from Africa. The unfortunate thing is that everyone follows American fashion. So we had the same problems in South Africa and other parts of Africa. Again, this is a bull, 2.25-year-old bull here, small frame, but look how masculine he is. I'm sure this bull is at least 2 years older, if not older. And look at the difference. Look how tall he is. I mean, these cowboys here aren't very short. Like me, they're a lot taller than I am. So that bull is probably 6 foot at least at the hips. But there he is, National Western Livestock Show. He won the championship. He's got a nice fluffy tail.
Where's that at?
National Western, Denver. Denver. It's,
That's a French bull?
it's a Simmental in South Africa and the United States.
I mean, the tail looks like a French bull.
Like a French poodle, yes.
That was the big hair rating.
That's probably, he probably won the show championship on that tail there. But look at the size of the testes. Absolutely no indication of masculinity at all. So it's an overemphasis of size and growth rate. As opposed to this animal here, it's also 2.25 years old, but look how masculine he is. Defined muscling, darkening, and there he's bellowing. All those indications of masculinity. We saw it yesterday in your young bulls there. Some have got a bit of an attitude. They come at you sideways, give you that sideways look. That's testosterone. Next one. Here again. Short, this is a very heavy bull compared to this tall light bull that's been selected for frame size. Again, the difference is this bull here, I don't know what that bull would weigh. I can't even guess. What do you think a bull like that might weigh?
1,400.
Okay, this bull here is about this height, 5 foot, even less than 5 foot tall. He weighs a ton, 2,200 pounds. But very small frame. But look how long he is relative to his frame. That's a Leicester Beefmaster bull that I took a photograph of. So there you can see the difference between the hip height and the length and the masculinity. Very heavy forequarter, very heavy crest. He's even got the fine muscle in his back. You have, if it rained, you'd probably have water standing in his back there. Next one. Again, testosterone, masculine in size, short and heavy. It's an Angus bull, and short and long. This is a Thule bull in South Africa. Again, that indicates the early sexual maturity, which restricts hip height, length of long bones. Again, this bull, look at the size of testes in that bull there. Next one, please, right? And this cow we've seen many times, and I can look at it every day and I'll still be amazed that we have cattle like that. But that's an extremely good cow. And this is a very good cow as well, with large calves. So estrogen, femininity in size, relatively small frame, wedge shape, and they will produce calves with the same amount of milk, calves that are a larger percentage of their own weight because of the smaller frame. And the added advantage of that is the intake levels are higher.
What did you breed that cow to there? What's that calf? That profitable?
No, it's a Thule.
Pure bred both of them?
That's Thule. Pure Thule bull, calf.
When you say wedge shape, in what?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's deeper in the hind quarter, you want to see it there, and much shallower in the forequarter, like a dairy cow. Imagine a dairy cow, imagine a good Jersey cow, a small Jersey cow, what the cow looks like. That's what a beef cow should look like in terms of shape. Not fleshing, but shape. From a side view, yes.
Okay,
Yeah. Next, please. You can see it here probably better, not so because of the calf here. Estrogen femininity, 2-year-old cow with a calf, and there's another 2-year-old cow. You can see she looks as though she's standing downhill, walking downhill. You can see she's got that wedge shape. So she's got a deeper hind quarter and a shallow forequarter there, which we'll see in other slides. Next, please. And testosterone in the calf, at a very early age, you will find calves with very high levels of testosterone. there is a month old, and there is 8 months old. Same calf, same cow, different times of the year. And at 8 months, look at his testes there, and look how masculine he looks in appearance. It's very obvious in there. So that indicates that that herd has got a very high, appropriate hormonal balance between sex hormones and growth hormones. Next, please. And what you also see is you will find the testosterone in calves. Here's a 9-month-old calf there. Look how shiny coated he is. Look at the defined muscling. He's already weaned, but look at the defined muscling there, and look at the darkening that you do get there in most animals. Darkening around the neck and the lower hip area. And here you have one of Jaime's calves mounting other calves. So you had to separate those calves from their sisters, because they'd be mounting them. So that's again an indication at a very young age, 7, 8 months, 6 months even. You always find some calves, even when they're 2, 3 months old, when the bull is trying to soothe the cow, he's a bit of a nuisance. He also wants to soothe the cow, so he's butting the bull from behind, he's underneath the bull. You'll find those calves. That's a good indication of early sexual maturity. And behavior, testosterone behavior. You can see this one kicking up dust there. We have big anthills in Africa, and they fight the anthills. They rub their heads against the trees, so you have bald heads here, kicking up dust there. And here he is just bellowing all the time. And this is a very, you see that deep forequarter, that very heavy shoulders, and that large hump in that animal there. The cow would have no hump, the equivalent in the same breed. A very fertile cow will have no hump, or very little indication of a hump. So it's a masculine trait. But what is interesting about this bull here, when I visited the herd, I was careful of him because of high levels of testosterone. So one's got to be careful in terms of assessing temperament, because testosterone can have, one can assume a bull has a very bad temperament because of high testosterone levels. So one has to be careful of that. But what was interesting, I could go into that paddock. I was careful of the bull. I was aware of it, that he might be a danger. But the owner couldn't get in. The owner came and he charged the owner, the breeder of the bull. And a couple of days prior to that, he was given a vaccination by the breeder, and he still recognized that. So when he saw him, he came for him. Next. Okay, so what do cattlemen want? What do we want? Survival of the prettiest, or do we want survival of the fittest? Again, these are sleeping quarters for these improved cattle, and these are sleeping quarters for these unimproved cattle. Now, which animals are going to have better resistance to diseases, high inherent nutrition, body condition? Obviously, these animals here. Here he's serving this cow here under these conditions of mud where he has to sleep. Okay, so that's the two extremes that we're talking about. Next, please. Survival of the fittest. Sorry, that should be prettiest, not fittest. Artificial environment, and if you have an artificial environment, you will get artificial cattle. And they will require artificial conditions to survive. Next, please. Survival of the fittest, real environment, and these are real cattle. These are cattle that can produce under very difficult conditions. So that's what we want. Next one, please. Okay, I took this is a photograph of my family ranch. My father and his two brothers had over 10,000 head of cattle on very sour felt, low octane grazing. The photograph was taken in 1955. And to me it's very personal, because I asked myself that question. The 40 years of cattle breeding that I've done, did I improve in those cattle in 1955? In 1955 they didn't have a scale. Fortunately didn't have a tape measure. But they also had no supplementary feeding. So how would my father and his brothers have selected cattle? By eye. Which bulls would they have selected? The ones that had the fullest package, that had the best body condition. And that's the result. Look at the body condition of those weaned calves with no supplementation on very poor grazing. So all we've done in terms of scientific breeding is we've bred cattle that require improved nutrition in order to be productive. That's all we've done. They can be productive, but they require better nutrition. We need to breed cattle that under poor nutrition, non-selective grazing, higher stock densities, higher stocking rates, will still be able to reproduce efficiently. Next, please. Well, that is a beef cow that looks like a dairy cow. Okay, this is a real champion. A 25-year-old Angus cow with a 25th calf. That must be a record. But look at the shape of that cow. Look at the wedge shape I was talking about, Tim. There you can see the wedge shape. She looks like a dairy cow. If I didn't put Angus there, I'm sure a lot of you wouldn't have recognized it as being an Angus cow. So what happens is she calved at 2 years of age, and then she had one set of twins. 25 calves in 25 years. You can't get a better calving record than that. Okay, good beef cow has the outline of a productive dairy cow. Productive despite the efforts of man. That's amazing if you think about it, what we've done to cattle, and we still have productive cows. And in every herd, I'm sure, I have no doubt that in all the herds that are around, there are very productive cows. The challenge is that the bulls we're using don't complement those cows. So what we have to do, if man concerns himself with accelerating natural selection as opposed to man-made selection, all beef cows will genetically be altered in this direction. That it would be our aim to have all our beef cows look like that and produce like that. Next, please. This is one of the results of whims of man by what happened in the 1940s, 1950s on the show ring when they selected for smaller cattle. They selected for smaller cattle, they fed them to be overfat, and by selecting for smaller cattle that won the show prize in the 1940s, 1950s, they got dwarfism gene coming in to cattle. And that's exactly what happened there. That's a dwarf as a result of that. So I have to be very clear in that we're not selecting for smaller cattle. We are selecting for cattle that are more efficient. And the more efficient cattle will be in the smaller frame size, but they will be much heavier. We will never get into this situation where we have dwarfism because we're not selecting for smaller size. We're only selecting for more efficient cattle. So that won't happen. But the problem is now, because of that, in the 1960s and 70s, we overreacted. And that's when it started selecting for larger frame cattle. Next, please. And that's what we got. Man's reaction to dwarfism, slab-sided fertile oxen. That's what we have. Next, please. Here again, this is a very poor animal. Scientifically selected, had a good feed conversion efficiency, had a very good growth rate, but it's an extremely poor animal in terms of grass conversion efficiency and range productivity. I studied under Professor Jan Bonsma, and he coined the term man must measure. But it's not very clever of us if we measure the wrong criteria or inappropriate criteria, and that is a problem. And that's exactly what we're doing today. We have erred by measuring inappropriate criteria accurately and appropriate criteria inaccurately. I think you understand what I mean by that. Appropriate criteria would be fertility. We don't select for fertility. We might cull for fertility, but very few of us, if any, do select for fertility. Absolute performance measure under artificial conditions. That's what you get. Selected to be lean and efficient and fed to be productive. And EPDs speed up an undesired end, if that is what we measure. So we have an imbalance between genotype and environment. We have an imbalance between growth and sex hormones. We have low practical fertility. And then we require the unimproved genotypes to improve the improved genotypes. So that's an improved genotype. The only way we can improve that is by using the unimproved breeds, like your Mashona and your Nguni and your Corriente and your Longhorn and all those cattle. Next one, please. And I must say, because I studied under Professor Bonsma, he had a very big role in what I understand today, but I also understand that he made some mistakes. We're all human. And one of the mistakes he made was he overemphasized frame size in terms of leanness, and he was very critical about short, stocky, early maturing bulls. To this day, I can't quite understand why he was so opposed to those bulls. I think largely because of their poor feed conversion efficiency in the feedlot, because they're early maturing sexually and they're early maturing in terms of body fat condition. Okay, so what I wanted to show you, what he did was he looked at these two bulls here, two Angus bulls, and to him this was the best bull. He used them as an example. Okay, he said this bull wasn't over fat as that bull is. That bull is over fat because he was fed for the show ring. So what you have here is an early maturing bull, physiologically and sexually, being overfed. So it's a man-made problem. It's not a hormonal problem. Whereas this animal here, although he has a good hormonal balance, physiologically, in terms of fat, he's later maturing. So he will produce you females that are hormonally balanced, but they're only academically fertile. Because for practical fertility, you require inherently good body condition. And you won't pass inherently good body condition onto his female progeny. Whereas this bull will do it. And that is where they've gone wrong. And that is where the Bonsmara breed's gone wrong as well. By overemphasizing feedlot, feed conversion efficiency, and growth rate. And I wish that people would understand that and change their breed, because they have a good breed, but they're going in the wrong direction. Next one, please. And that other bull, this is the type of cows you will produce that have good body condition. Next slide. And the other bull will produce you a cow that's hormonally balanced. She's wedge-shaped, but she has difficulty putting on body condition. She's in the show ring, so she's been fed. If she was on grazing, she would be very poor body condition.
Is she kind of high in the tail head too?
That is why she's poor body condition. High hip height, that's what they've selected for. That probably happens as well, yeah. So she would have, she wouldn't have, she's not the easiest calving cow there is. Because easier calving cow, what would happen, this hip bone here would be much lower down, so that angle would be more acute. What that means is that you open up the cervix opening, becomes larger. So, yeah, so what would happen if this bone was lower down and this was lower down, you'd have a sloping rump and then you'd have a larger pelvic opening. So what's happening here, by selecting for hip height as well, what's happened is that this bone, what bone is that? Third. That is higher, becomes higher.
No,
The hip bone is that there.
no, the pin bone.
That's a pin bone there.
Pin bone's back there in the back. Right down, it looks like a V. You can see it in the color there.
Okay, and this is the third here.
Right down there. And the only way you can really see that thing is you got to feel it. And it's a round type bone.
Oh, okay. Well, we're speaking about the slope between the
I understand. But the slope is more the
between
thorough
the
way
hip
down.
bone and
Yeah.
the pin bone. And
Understand?
the third bone is the one that makes the beat down there.
How do you want it to look like this?
Well, basically what I'd like to see is cows that are can identify as easy calving. If you look from the side, they'd have a sloping rump. They'd have a sloping rump. In other words,
And like, see that cow, that thin cow on the right?
this one here,
Yeah.
got a sloping rump.
Hooks and pins, right?
Sorry?
Hooks and pins.
So, and from the back, you'd have a roofy rump like that. You wouldn't have a flat rump. Looking from the back. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, which is better than unimproved or improved? What's happened here? These cattle have been stolen from white ranches when our land was taken away. So they're under very difficult conditions. They're not bred for these conditions. But these animals have survived these conditions. So these animals require much improved environment in terms of nutrition and everything else. Next, please. Okay, so I'll tell you about using unimproved breeds to improve the improved breeds. And what you have here, this is a case of exactly that. This heifer here's mother was a Bonsmara cow, and the father, the sire, was a Nguni cow, which is a so-called unimproved breed, one of the African breeds, indigenous breeds. So when we crossed that, initially we had very high, this rancher that I'm involved with had very high mortality, apart from all the other problems of fertility. When we made the first cross, over 80% of his cows, heifers, calved the second time at 3 years. Over 90% calved at 2 years, and of that, over 80% reconceived for the second calf, just by using that one unimproved bull.
What breed?
The mother was a Bonsmara,
The father?
Nguni. Yeah. So what the unimproved breed did was bring back the inherently good body condition. That's basically what happened there. So that's why you had low mortality. We had double figure mortality initially, now it's down to 0.2%. Without any treatment, no dipping, no treatment. Sick animals, if they become sick, they just die. and the mortality is down to 0.2%, where it was double-digit figures. Next, please. See, this is what happened when man starts selecting cattle, and I think they're selecting cattle, they're selecting dogs and cats and pigeons and budgies and things like that. So what they do is they make the unimportant important. So what they did in the Afrikaner breed in South Africa has been selected for over 100 years by white man. They started selecting for a good-looking bull with a nice face, a feminine face. So that's what happened. So you've got an effeminate face there. No testosterone, very low levels of testosterone, which you can see there. So that's what happened. The result is a hormonal problem in that breed, and it's still there today, although you do have animals that don't have that hormonal imbalance. Next, please. And this is, you can't see it in this photograph, but look at effeminate bull here, and look at those small testes. And there's no defined muscling, as I showed you earlier. There's no muscle mass. Sorry?
Looks like a deep-bodied cow.
It just looks like a steer. Exactly what it looks like. Now look what the next photograph. Look what the cows look like. Look at that big hump there. Total hormonal imbalance caused by that. So you get effeminate bulls and masculine cows. It just doesn't work. Next, please. But here you have a hormonally balanced family. Very masculine bull, very feminine cow, and that calf. It's not easy to get a photograph like that. It's just by chance you get a photograph like that, where you have a family like that. Next, please. And here you have the same breed. Remember that cow with a big hump? Exactly the same breed. This is a heifer that calved at 22 months of age. There's no hump. She will never grow a hump unless you keep a bull away from her. And you can see the shoulder blade I was talking about. The shoulder blade is actually higher than the vertebrae, which is the hump. So a hump is a masculine trait, not a feminine trait.
The sloping rump.
Sloping rump, you can see there's a. Next, please. And there you have another example of one that calved at 2 years of age. Very good body condition. Next, please. And here in that same herd, here's a bull. You can see how masculine that bull is. I'm guessing he's about two and a half years old. Look at how deep his forequarter is. Look at how large that hump is. Darker forequarter here, darkening there, and just a masculine head and muscle mass indicating masculinity. Now the problem with man is that we make the unimportant important and the important unimportant. This bull was deregistered. He comes from a herd where they have registered cattle. When the breed inspectors came out, this bull was deregistered. Can you tell me why that bull was deregistered if you look at all his positive attributes? He was deregistered because his scrotum is twisted. In Africa. And that is a legacy from the Bonsmara breeders. The twisted scrotum. It has nothing to do with fertility. It has everything to do with man and man's ego. It's got nothing to do about cattle. So conventional breeding has very little to do about cattle. It has a lot to do about people, about man, unfortunately. And that's one of the consequences there. Next, please. And again, the same breed. I just show you some very hormonally balanced bulls. This bull, I'm not sure what his age was when the photograph was taken, but he was still working when he was 17 years old. He was still breeding cows as a 17-year-old. But he had extreme masculinity and very well, you can see the muscling and the defined muscling in that bull. And he produced very masculine bulls and extremely feminine cows. Next. That's one of his progeny, heifer. You can see that she's got a bit of a hump, but a very small hump, because the breed does have genetically, has the genes for a large hump. But that hump is very small compared to the other cow I showed you. Very fertile cow. And the next one, please. And that's one of his progeny. This is a bull that was bellowing all the time, like a Jersey bull, wanting to fight everything and everyone because of high level of testosterone. Next, please. This is a bull I wanted to take a very good photograph of because I could see the defined muscling in a very masculine bull and defined muscling as you see there. But I couldn't take a good photograph because this heifer here was on heat, so he was following her around all the time. But there you can see the defined muscling. Talking about that's high level of testosterone as well.
So what do you know about double muscle bulls? What is that?
That's not double muscling, no.
I know.
Double muscling is a genetic defect, and how I can define double muscling, Well, a couple of things. One is the fertility of the cows is much lower. You have a low fertility, you have lower milk production, and you have a funny shaped head, more sort of dish-shaped head, and the hind quarter will be more like one of your draft horse's hind quarters. If you look at a draft horse, it sort of goes up and around like that. That's what the. If you look at your Belgian blues, it's a different shape than what these cattle have. So if you select it for fertility, as we do, that is your baseline, that is your foundation. You won't get double muscling. You'll get extremely good muscling, but not double muscling.
I don't know that I've ever seen much double muscling, and I just want to identify it.
Yeah. Take a look at one of the Belgian blue cattle. That's double muscling you see there. A lot of your continental breeds do have that problem. Should we carry on? And here again is an Afrikaner cow, same breed as we saw earlier. Look at that beautiful udder and teats, and look at that small hump you have there. Very fertile cow. Next, please. And here again, just to re-emphasize the effect of testosterone on defined muscling. One can't be dogmatic. I've seen bulls that are well muscled but don't show a lot of muscle definition. So I wouldn't say those bulls have low testosterone levels. But I do know that high levels of testosterone is correlated with the defined muscling. Next, please. The same bull, this is a 5-year-old, that bull, he doesn't show the muscle definition now as a mature bull, but there you can see his attitude, look at the way he's looking at me, he's bellowing, you can see he's been fighting anthills and he's been kicking up dust. All indications of very high level of testosterone. Next, please. And again, the sexual dimorphism between extremely well-muscled Angus bull and this extremely feminine Angus cow. So you have the two opposites. High levels of testosterone will give you that, and in the female you will have extremely high levels of estrogen will give you that. Next, please. And this is a bull that was at one of your AI stations here in the United States that they collected semen from. They were selling semen from. Now, how they collected semen from that bull, I'm not quite sure. Maybe with today's technology you can, because I can't even see the testers there. But apart from that, there's no indication of masculinity in that animal at all. He's an even color, he's got an even fat cover, he's got an even fleshing, there's no indication of heavy muscling, no muscle definition. But look how tall he stands. And that is a result of frame scoring, selected for high hip height. You indirectly selected for low fertility and low testosterone levels. Even his head is a feminine head, like a cow. Next, please. And this is a Brangus bull at the same AI station. Look how tall that animal is. And there you can see fat deposition at the tail is not a masculine trait, it's a feminine trait.
What was that saying?
Fat deposition at the tail there is a feminine trait, not a masculine trait. And that's what he's got. He's got fat by the tail head. And look how tall he stands. And there you can, there's an indication of testicles there, but very, very low levels of testosterone. Next, please. And here's a Brahman bull. Look how small his hump is. But look how tall he is. Look at his testes. These are all bulls from AI catalog. Next, please. And you compare that to that bull there, how masculine that bull is. He exudes masculinity. And the cows in the same herd are very feminine. Next. And there's the cows in the same herd. Brahman cow. Look how deep she is to the hind quarter and shallow through the forequarter. There's no fat on the brisket. It's got a very loose skin over the brisket. So if you look at it from the side, she'd have the shape of a dairy cow. And she's got a small hump relative to the masculine counterpart in the same breed. Next, please. And here's your Brahman cow, extremely feminine cow. Look how small that hump is. She's 12 years old, I think, with had 11 calves. So she calved at the age of 2 and every single year after that. Again, look at that wedge shape. If you drew that line like that, she'd be like a dairy cow. Next, please. And here you're a very masculine bull. relatively short in the hip and very long in the body. So you have that tubular shape. Defined muscling, very heavy forequarter, extremely heavy forequarter. But there's no calving problems in that herd. That's the Lassiter herd in Colorado. Took that photograph from. Next, please. And here's an 11-month-old bull calf. Look at his testes development. But what I want to show you is his attitude. Look at the way he's looking at you. So you can judge from a bull's behavior whether he's got high levels of testosterone or not. And I just want to give you an indication. When we were in Nebraska, did you see the photograph of that very nice Angus bull? 255, you might have seen it. It was a very good, early maturing, very masculine, red Angus bull there. And then the following day, the ranch manager took me to the corral and asked me, he wants to show me a calf, but he wants to get my indication of what I think about the calf. So I said to him, don't tell me anything, I just want to have a look at him first, and then you can tell me the history. So I went into the corral. The first thing I saw was his attitude. His head was up and he was wide awake, and he was ready for any confrontation. So I was a little bit careful. He's only a year old. And I looked at him from the side and I said, this is an extremely well-muscled bull, extremely masculine. And then he told me the story. The problem he has, why he's in the corral, is because he goes through 5 fences to go and serve the cows. So he had to keep him in the corral. And he was a son of that other bull I was talking about. So it shows how highly heritable that trait is. Next. That's right. Next, please. And what you have here, this is the Leicester Beefmaster herd again. I mean, they've been calving from the age, from 1947, I think it is. Every single cow in that herd has to calve at 2 years of age and reconceive again. And I took that photograph in 1982 when these 2-year-old cows were running in a 6,000 acre paddock. So there's very little calving problems, if any, in that herd. I think, Jaime, let's take a break for 5 minutes and we can come back.
These are actual numbers. This is mature South African grass that, whatever. Yeah, hyperenia. And it's a warm season grass. It grows real tall, becomes very fibrous. Cattle will starve to death when it gets mature. It's a 42% oxygen.
But that doesn't grow here.
You asked me to put up Ian's hay. And this is Ian's hay. Ian, you know Ian Michelinas from South, yes. Yesterday, why don't you put up Ian's? That'll be a good thing. It'll be a lot like our Bahia grass or whatever. Oh, never mind. A 5.3% hydrogen, very low energy. There's what you get. That's why they starve to death. They can't overeat enough to get the job done. The same thing with your mature grasses. 3% protein. Looks a lot the same. Okay, so now I needed to find some way to raise the energy and protein and also find out what the cost is going to be. So in his case, we use cottonseed meal. These are the numbers for cottonseed meal. And I used some of that corner post. These are the numbers for it. I took 86% times those numbers, 10% times those, 4% times those, and these are the totals I got. I got a 41% oxygen, which is a little high, but because I know this is very fibrous, then I don't have to worry too much about the oxygen being released very quickly and causing acidosis. I needed to get at least a 6% hydrogen and a 7% protein, so I can maintain and maybe even produce some milk or a little back fat, not much, but at least maintain them. So this is an 800-pound cow, and to do that, I took the dry matter content of the ration. The cow should eat 2.5% of its body weight, but because it's so low in energy and protein, even with this, they're going to overeat some. If I take 2.5% times 800 pounds, that's going to give me, 20-some pounds of dry matter. All this isn't 100% moist or dry, so I'll multiply 86% times the 24 pounds that cow's going to eat, or I'm sorry, 20 pounds that cow's going to eat of dry matter, and 10% times the cottonseed meal, and it comes up to then 2.17 pounds of cottonseed meal, and 0.22. No, that's not right. That's
That's the cost per pound?
yeah, this is a cost per pound. We used about $480 a ton for cottonseed meal. I don't know what your cottonseed meal costs anymore. It changes all the time. Corner post, I needed 0.8 pounds, and it was 66 cents. The total is $1.02 a cow a day to keep that cow in condition and producing some milk. That's how the rations are done. Over here, in your different types of grasses over here, in stockpile grasses, you would take an analysis and make the changes here. If they're higher in protein or higher in energy or higher, then we'll put those numbers in, and that will determine how much of these others you use to balance that ration. Now, I'm pretty sure that you guys spend $1 a cow a day on supplements in the winter, maybe more, to maintain that animal. But this will maintain it because I now have the energy in proportion with the protein. And I'm not using protein for an energy source. I'm using energy for energy and protein for protein. But we didn't have the numbers yesterday, and I just took this as off Ian Mitchell Innes's mature South African grass so that he could maintain an animal. Now he does use, over there they'll use some chicken litter. You used to use it in this country. I don't know whether it's legal anymore or not, but he used to use some chicken litter, some urea, some molasses, and some corner post, and he'd make rations up whatever was cheapest. And then he'd put it out in licks or feed it on the ground. Any questions? This is how to do that ration. When I send you guys the thing, you'll do something like this, and it'll total, and then you'll know what to use. Yes, these are all percent on a dry matter basis here. This here will have the moisture in it. But these are all based on dry matter. So 86% of the dry matter intake of that cow is going to be that grass, that mature grass. 10% of this, and now the animal should eat 2.5% of its body weight in dry matter. But because the energy is so low, they're going to overeat. If this is all you fed with this very mature grass, they will not be able to overeat enough to maintain themselves, and they will get thin, they will stop milking, and the calf will die because there's nothing to eat. So that's one of the reasons you don't want to feed a cow that's with a calf in the middle of the winter. It's a really bad idea, unless you want to spend $1.02 a cow a day. Now you still may need to do that, some of this, but you might not have to have the energy and protein that high. You know, maybe you only need a 590 and a 5 protein just to maintain a dry cow. But you'll spend a lot less money then.
We have much better grasses here.
Well,
because we maintain them in the winter with a calf on their side, with 1.5 pounds of flaxseed meal, eating non-selective grazing. So it must be much higher in hydrogen maybe.
of course.
I know the graph you're talking about, that's the absolutely
Yeah,
first graph.
but we're also talking about some stockpiled stuff here where they have to feed to keep the calf alive. So what I'm talking about is deciding how to determine whether you should use this or a combination to do the job that you're wanting to do.
So even with that extremely low quality graph, you can balance it.
Yes. You can supplement. Is it cost effective? I don't know. $1 a cow a day? Maybe. But this is how you determine it, so you don't have to spend money ahead of time and find out at the end. You can do it. You can do the ration balancing at the beginning, and you can know. All you have to do is know these numbers. So you send in a test, and we run a carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen test on it, and minerals, and find out what the numbers are, and then you know ahead of time whether the cow can overeat enough to get it, because she will be limited, some more than others. And then you can then determine if what you have to do to supplement to bring it up, and then what the cost is, and then you can make your decision.